Welcome back to Beyond the Badge. It is Women's History Month, and today we are highlighting our 911 Center Director, Ms. Tracie Abell. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Good. So, how long have you been the 911 Director?
It's been, 13 months now.
13 months. So, you are a year and a month in.
Well,
kind of.
Actually, it's been, 16 months. I'm sorry.
Girl, don't have me doing math. Look, my background is in communications. I cringe at math. I said 13. We're good. I can do a year and a month.
Well, I started in November of 2024. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So a year and a few months. Got it.
Yeah.
So you are over all things 911. Tell me, what does like a good day versus a bad day at 911 look like for y'all?
Well, a good day is the word we don't use all the time. It's quiet. We don't have.
Go ahead and knock on wood for you.
We have very few calls. Everything is mellow in the center. That's a good day. On a bad day is chaos. If we have a major incident, accident, or a shooting or something like that, it's going to take up most of the units in the in the city because they're working on that particular incident. So, and then we still have calls come in that we have to service. So it can be chaotic.
Okay. You speak about chaos a little bit and, major incidents happening, but what are some of the pressures that happens in 911 that the public generally doesn't see? Because a lot of the times they don't see you. You all don't respond to the scene, but you are the first to take the call.
Right. A lot of the pressures we get is getting units on the scene. When we first get the call, it's minutes. It seems like a lifetime to the caller. But for us, it's like we're just getting the call. We're trying to get the information. That's the most important part, is getting the information. And a lot of times they don't understand that. And it puts pressure on whoever's taking that call because they have to get the pertinent information to the to the responding units.
So walk us through that. You mentioned getting the information. Like if people call in and, they dial 911, they pick up the phone. 911, what is your emergency? What information are they trying to establish before they get like some help to them? Like from the moment the call is received until an officer arrives on scene. And even then, it's still not done.
Right.
Walk us through that.
Okay. So when they initial call, the first thing we need to get is a location. That's the most important part. We need to know where you're at. Because if you don't tell us where you're at, then we don't know. And as far as verifying, even if it comes up on our screen, we still have to verify that information to know that it is correct. We also need to get what's going on. Are there any weapons involved, any pertinent information that's going to help the units that are responding to that call, because we don't want to put them in danger. So it's very pertinent that we get all the information that we can for the safety of the units that are responding.
Okay, so when people call 911, have a location, stay calm, know where you are and know what's happening so that we can get help to you faster.
Correct.
That is a very key point. And I know a lot of the times when things are happening, adrenaline is, rushing, it's running high, and I can only assume that some people may forget where they are.
Right.
But just trying to be as calm as possible when you're calling 911 would definitely help move things along smoother and faster. Would you agree?
I agree. Yes.
All right. So we just implemented a new program. But before we talk about RightSite, let's talk about like what people should call 911 for, like, and not to call 911 for.
Okay, basically, you're going to call 911 for your real emergencies. If you have someone that's not breathing, you have someone that's been shot. Critical incidents is what we consider emergencies. Something that is life or death is when you should call 911 so we can get the help to you as fast as we can. An incident where you shouldn't call 911 is if you have the sniffles or something like that. Maybe urgent care somewhere can get you the help that you need. Not saying that we're going to not get you the help, but those type incidents are not considered dire emergencies where we would send, someone out. But,
Okay. So speaking of the sniffles, and this is like a good segue into RightSite, right?
Yes.
Okay. So RightSite is a program that the fire department, Columbus Fire and EMS, has implemented, and you all are also working in partnership because you get the fire calls as
Right.
well. Tell us about RightSite and when would that be used?
RightSite, where you would call in 911 for your low acuity calls, low priority calls. If you're not feeling well, you may not have a real emergency. When you call into 911, we'll ask you if you are okay with talking to a telehealth doctor. If you agree to that, then we would transfer you to that telehealth doctor while staying on the phone with you until they connect. They're going to ask you a few questions, and if they deemed it necessary for you to talk to one of their telehealth doctors, if that's something they can handle, then they will take over the call and we would disconnect. From that point on, RightSite, they may get you some medicine, they may get you a ride to the doctor, or anything that you need as far as what your symptoms are, and it goes from there.
And they do all the follow up on their end and everything.
Yes, they do.
And I feel like the biggest thing as well is that it's not tying up resources
Exactly.
like an ambulance or a fire truck, which would normally be, dispatched to calls of that nature if someone is not feeling
Yeah,
well.
it's keeping the ambulance and the fire trucks that are keeping them free for the real emergencies, because if it's a real emergency, sometimes we have to send an ambulance and a fire truck. It just depends on the circumstances of the call.
So would you say that this has been impactful, like in a good way?
It has. It's really working out. I think we're averaging maybe 13 calls a month from RightSite, and yeah, I think it's been successful so far.
And your dispatchers are able to tell, like,
Yes.
which of these calls may constitute
Mm-hmm.
for a RightSite call.
Right, they are. When we implemented RightSite, they gave them it was about 45 minutes to an hour training, which is it wasn't anything that was complicated. So they gave them the training on how to identify those type calls and to get the services that they needed.
That's amazing. So let's talk about your dispatchers for a moment. And honestly, every time we post something on social media about dispatchers, we call them heroes in headsets.
Right.
Um, what is it like having how many dispatchers work there now under you?
I manage over, let me see, it's about 65. Well, total in dispatch, I'm going to say roughly about 54 people.
Roughly 54 people in dispatch.
Right.
And the other ones are supervisors
Yes, supervisors and admin staff.
and admin staff. So you're running a large ship, and this is fully staffed, or you all are hiring?
Almost fully staffed. As of last week, we have one vacancy.
One vacancy.
One vacancy.
Okay. So tell me about like it's plenty of them, so we probably won't be able to go like into individual ones, but tell me what it's like managing and being, leading 65 people in the 911 center.
Well, you're looking at 54 personalities that I have to deal with, but I must say I know each and every one of them. I know who each and every one of them are. Basically, you have to, just lead by example. And I try to do that as far as, I've always tried to do that as far as like even being a supervisor in the 911 center. You have to understand people's needs and wants, because the job is not easy. We work 12-hour shifts, and it can be heavy on people. They have families and they have to manage all that. So I understand and I get it, because I've been there and that's where I came from. So I know how to manage them. So you have to consider their needs as well. So
Absolutely. And you mentioned that you were a dispatcher as well. Like you came up to supervisor and then now
right.
the director. How long have you been with CBD?
I've been with 911 for 27 years.
What?
27 years.
Oh my Lord. So 27 years, and you've worked your way up from the foot in the door to a newly established, well, Is it newly established being a 911 center director, or it's just always been someone who's sworn?
It's always been someone sworn.
So you're the first professional staff, non-sworn.
I think there was one other before me,
Okay.
years and years and years ago, but yeah.
Okay. All right.
This is something new for the police department as a civilian 911 director.
But you've been in it. You're like you know that 911 center from like the top to bottom.
Yeah.
27 years.
Yes,
3 more
ma'am.
years will be 30. We celebrating, right?
Yeah.
I love a good celebration.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
So, gosh, 27 years, Tracie. So you've been there through all the remodels that's been happening, because we had one recently last year.
Yeah, as soon as I became the director, that's when we had the remodeling of the 911 center. That was in November of 24. That's where I had to switch them from the backup center to, get everything done at the main center. So, yeah, it took about a month to do it. But, yeah, right when I became director, that's what I was faced with.
Girl, you came in swinging. and then right after that, like you had to, I know it, the staffing, and then you also had 911 week. Well, I call it 911 week, but National Telecommunicators Appreciation Week.
Right.
That's the full name, but I call it 911 week. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and that came up in April. So a lot of the things right out the gate for you. How did you handle all those challenges?
Well, I knew National Telecommunicators Week was coming up, and I knew I said then, I was like, I got to start planning. I planned to the best of my ability, but it just wasn't where I wanted it to be last year. But it was successful. We had, you can't make everybody happy, but, we did the best we could. And I think it turned out well. But this year, I had a little bit more time to plan for it and, make some moves on it and get things, started for it. So.
All right. That's amazing. So, in short, 911 week, because I will stumble over it all. Tell us about that for this year. Like, what are the dates?
It's going to be April 12th through April 18th.
April 12th through April 18th. So, one, we appreciate our 911 folks like year round, but I know this is just a special week to recognize all the work and efforts that you all do, because we couldn't do what we do without 911. So if during that week, if y'all want to step in and show our dispatchers and our admin and supervisors and our directors some love, feel free, because they definitely deserve it. And let's not mention, now, although y'all got the new renovations, you all work down in the basement of the headquarters.
Right. With no windows.
No windows. So imagine they could come in, it's dark, and leave when it's sun, or vice versa. Or they may not even know if it's rain or sunshine outside most days. I mean, unless they're pulling up a picture on a computer or on a screen or something. So I don't necessarily call it a basement. I call it a dungeon just because there are no windows.
It's been called a dungeon. It's been called a dungeon for years, actually.
Right.
So,
and it is work that you all are doing in there, and it's like, you're unseen, but you're heard a lot of the times, especially in matters of emergency. So we definitely appreciate everything that you all are doing. But I know that the renovations, we'll go back to that. You all were able to get new consoles and new chairs, desks where they can stand up, sit down, and things of that nature. And you talked about that, but there are more upgrades coming. Can you tell us about that?
So we have new radio upgrades coming. It's going to be the end of May, first part of June. We'll be doing upgrades to our backup center to make it compatible with the main center, because we had a lot of issues at the backup center when they go over there. During, for instance, like when we did the remodeling, it was just a lot of issues. So we're upgrading that to make it better. Once we get done with the backup center, then the main center will be upgraded as well. And that'll be another time where we will have to pull them to the backup center to get those upgrades done. But basically, it's going to be a radio upgrade. And we also have ASAP to PSAP, which is where the alarm services that should be happening within the next month or so, where we have the alarm services that are able to put in their own alarm calls, and we just dispatch them. So it's a lot of new stuff coming to 911. So
Tracie, you have a lot of changes coming. A lot of changes have happened, and I swear every time I talk to you, you're just like this. You're just like on an even keel. I swear. I mean, and this. I'd say that that's a gift.
Thank you.
You do a lot under great pressure. But so with 911, we talked about like some of the high stress calls and the long hours that they work, 12 hours. And sometimes like this could be an emotionally charged job with high burnout. How do you keep morale like steady in the 911 center for your employees?
Well, it goes back to meeting the needs of the employees. You can't just overlook that they work 12 hours and it's they're sitting there for 12 hours straight, and sometimes they can't get up, sometimes they can't take a break, because if there's something going on, they can't get up, they have to stay on their job and keep it going until it's finished. So we just try to keep them motivated. We try to, do different things, have different, like we try to get them involved in different, we're getting them more involved in different things to be seen, to be heard as 911. So that's some of the things that we're trying to work on, and just boosting morale and letting them know, hey, we see you, we acknowledge you. And things like if they have high EMD scores and things like that, we try to acknowledge that. We have, like, they may give gift cards and things like that. So that's just some of the little things that we try to do to boost the morale and, keep them encouraged to, stay on with us. So, and so far it's working. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is really amazing. And I have been seeing them at more events and career days and stuff. So, and I know Christina Baum texts me a lot about, how they can get involved. So I really do. I love that, because every time I'm like, oh my God, we're having stuff and our 911 can't come up. So I have to, shuffle some stuff down to the 911 center. But talk about anyone, maybe past or present, who's influenced you, your leadership style, or anything like that.
Well, initially coming into 911, a lot of people don't know this, but my sister, she was a 911, she worked in 911 for roughly around, I think, over 10 years. And so she's what motivated me to come to 911. So that's how I got my start. And I just worked my way up from there. But as far as on the job, the person that taught me everything I know was one of my supervisors. Her name was Shelly Joyce. And, from the beginning to the end, it's like, she was like, this how you do this, and she was stern with everything she did. So, that's where I learned my leadership style from, So I just went from there and just kept it moving. But like I said, I always try to lead by example, and, just being a good person and doing what I needed to do as far as the job was,
I love that. Well, Tracie, I'm so proud of you
for
stepping in and rolling with the punches and always just being so chill about everything. I tell people all the time, I was like, oh my goodness. I was like, Tracie is down there just handling stuff. I love that. So happy Women's History Month to you.
Thank you.
And like I'll tell you again over and over, I'm always so proud of you and everything that you bring to the table. Keep up the good work.
Appreciate it.
All right. That's going to do it for us here on Beyond the Badge. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.